What up, YouTube Live? How's it going? This is yours truly, Rama Screen, covering movies, TV, and entertainment. And guess what I just watched? The last or the final episode of the Twilight Zone season one. This is the brand new version by Jordan Peele, and it's on CBS All Access. So let's start with that. Rama Screen is an affiliate of CBS All Access. So if you haven't subscribed to CBS All Access, or if you haven't watched this Twilight Zone yet, don't worry. All right, just go to my website, ramascreen.com, and if you'll see on the sidebar on the homepage CBS All Access banner, and then just click on that banner, click through it, and then follow the instructions from there. And voila, you can subscribe to CBS All Access and enjoy their shows like The Twilight Zone, The Good Fight, and the upcoming Strange Angel, and of course, Star Trek Discovery. So again, if you want to watch The Twilight Zone, it's only available on CBS All Access. And if you haven't subscribed yet, just go to my website, click on the banner on the sidebar page, and then voila, you're there. Okay? So a little plug there. Also, tonight's episode features actress Zazie Beetz. You might know her best as Domino in Deadpool 2. And she also showed up in Slice, I believe that's the name of the movie, with Chance the Rapper. And she's going to also be featured in the upcoming Joker movie, starring Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. If you've seen the trailer, man, it looks fantastic. I can't wait for that rendition of the clown prince of crime. Um, and I interviewed Zazie Beetz last year at the Variety Top 10 Actors to Watch event. So underneath this video, I put in there the link so you can watch my video interview with Zazie Beetz in case you haven't seen it yet. All right. Again, Zazie Beetz, the actress who plays Domino and the star of tonight's episode of The Twilight Zone. Watch my video interview right there. The link is in the description box below. Okay. Let's get right to it. Heads up, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I will be spilling some spoilers in this video. This review is mainly for those of you, my fellow Twilight Zone fans, who've also watched tonight's episode. Yeah, this is the final episode of season one. That means that's it. I believe next week or the week after that, it will be Strange Angel season 2 that will take over pretty much every week for CBS All Access. So it's gonna be a while, but we are gonna get season 2 of the Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone has been renewed for a second season. So if you like this show, you're gonna get more of it. So don't worry on that front. Um, Tonight's episode is titled Blurryman, episode 10. And what's my verdict? If you ask me overall thought, I'd say it's a mixed bag. All right. It's a mixed bag. There are parts about it that I find to be, that's kind of interesting. And there are parts about it that I'm like, you could do better. This is all you could do, really? This is all you could pull off for us? Come on. You could do so much better than that. At least though that's my reaction when I watched the episode tonight. So let's unpack it. Let's break it down. And again, spoiler alert, okay? You've been warned. I'll be discussing spoilers here. First up, I like the way they did the whole, hey, turns out it's an episode within an episode, or like turns out the whole Seth Rogen plot is just the set of the Twilight Zone, and the story actually focuses on one of the other cast, or I should say, a crew member, a writer named Sophie, played by Zazie Beetz. I like that. I like that aspect. That was trippy. That was Twilight Zone esque. All right, we've had discussions, you and I, about how this past season, there are episodes that were like, really, that you just pretty much, shoved social justice warrior themes down our throats without wrapping it in a nice Twilight Zone typical bizarreness or bizarre or oddity, I should say. Like you're not giving any effort at all. You just want to like, oh, here you go, eat this toxic masculinity themes, eat this, whatever themes. Like, oh, eat it, eat it, eat it. Swallow it, without having it be presented in a Twilight Zone, you know, way. And so tonight with the whole thing, like, oh, it turns out, Seth, it's not really Seth Rogen's story. It's actually somebody who's on this, a writer on the set, and they're discussing about the narration and what Twilight Zone means. That part I find that's the one that I file under. Huh. That's interesting. That's interesting. Um, but the one that I want to file under, you could do better than that, is the fact that, well, for starters, that first half of the episode, where everything happens on the set, and it seems like, what you would expect the set to be: crowded, jam packed, full. Sometimes conversation gets uh detoured, from one subject to the next, because has a lot of things happen at the same time. Uh, that whole thing situation reminds me of The West Wing or Sports Night. In other words, it's an Aaron Sorkin style, especially with the dolly track, you know, following the characters from the front as the characters. Sometimes, more most times there'll be like two characters at a time, and they'll be like walking towards the camera, and camera keeps following them, as it dollies back from one hallway to the next. That's the style of Sports Night and The West Wing. So, as a fan of Aaron Sorkin, it's like, well, it's a nice homage, it's a nice tribute, but it's not original. I'm like, really? I mean, you got to steal somebody's style, somebody else's style. You can do so much better than that. You know, I like the whole premise of, oh, it turns out, it's not a Seth Rogen episode. That's interesting. Uh, but the way it's presented could have been done in a more unique, more fresh take than something that's already done by somebody like Aaron Sorkin. Um, so let's get to the next part. The second half, or the second and third act of this episode, are full blown suspense and horror. I don't have any problem with that, except for the fact that, well, let me just tell you that the episode is directed by Simon Kinberg. Simon Kinberg is the producer and co-scribe of a lot of X-Men movies, and his upcoming feature directorial debut is actually next week. X-Men Dark Phoenix. It's directed by Simon Kinberg. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. The Twilight Zone episode that he helmed falls on the week before the arrival of his big movie. I don't know if that's a coincidence. So, but back to the episode. I don't know about you, but I don't find the whole second and third act really that scary. Um, the whole with the Blurryman thing, they could have played it out in a way that, okay, books flying at you and bottles from a bar flying at you. And what else? There's another thing that flies at Zazie Beats character Sophie. I counted at least it happens like, okay, so the books start and then the bottles come next. No, the bottles come first. I think the books come second. My point is like, by that point I'm like, really? That's all you've got? So in order to scare the bejeebus out of Sophie, Zazie's character, just have something fly at her. I mean, like, really, that goes again to the category of like, you can do so much better. It's like it becomes a running gag after you do it 2 3 times. Um, and I don't understand how the first time around when the blurry man finally, I guess the word I'm looking for is attack. Maybe attack is a pretty hard word. But yeah, the Blurryman encounters Sophie, and Sophie kind of screams a little bit, and then it fades to black, and then it goes to the next scene, and then you see Sophie running away or being chased by the Blurry Man again. So I'm like, um, what's the point of that first encounter then? That was very anticlimactic. Why not still have her be chased instead of have her in that middle point where she actually gets absorbed by the blurry man. Absorbed. I don't know if that's the right description, but you know what I'm talking about. Point in the middle when she's on the floor, and then after that it becomes another scene of her running again. I'm like, I see. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the problem with the show being 1 hour long instead of 30 minutes. Just like that whole part where Sophie was talking to or was FaceTiming with her friend. Um, everything turned black or not black, turned empty and dark around her. And what she did was FaceTime with her friend. I'm like, dude, if I were her, all right, I know I'm being nitpicky here, but I'm just kind of hypothetically, if I were her, I'd be like, help. I'll be like running for my life, running, trying to find the exit, trying to find any any spot of light because it's dark everywhere. I'm gonna like, okay, where's the brightest place I could find and run there, run towards it. I'll be too scared to be FaceTiming my friend. Or if I were even I would call 911 or call the security of the studio. That's what I would use my phone for. Um, Nonetheless, that whole part could be cut out. That whole part could have been left out, man. It's again, it's a filler. Many of the episodes this season have so many fillers, man. They should really, really consider trimming this down to 30 minutes, 35 minutes tops per episode. Now, before I get to the big reveal, all right, of the blurry man, um, a bit of thought about Zazie. I think she is a fantastic rising star. Um, I just don't. I'm not getting a strong performance out of her in this episode. There's a part of me that also kind of feels maybe this is the wrong role for her. I don't know. Maybe you disagree with me. Let me know. Um, but yeah, that's my only note about her in this episode. That's also something that you can file under the category of, yeah, you can do better. But I am relieved, to be honest with you, that it's not focused on Seth Rogen and Betty Gabriel. Um, I just don't think Seth Rogen's a fantastic actor. I think he's a funny guy, but he's not necessarily a talented actor. So I'm glad whenever I don't have to see a full length of Seth Rogen, unless Seth Rogen is high, like in Pineapple Express. Now that's funny. That said, I I I am a bit curious about his character storyline. That turns out, of course, is not being explored. But I would love to see an episode about that. I know tonight's episode is about Sophie, but I'm curious to see like the whole thing with the premise with Seth Rogen's character is he's a writer, um, having writer's block, and then all of a sudden he hits epiphany. He writes a statement. Betty Gabriel, I guess, plays his girlfriend, and whatever that he just wrote, I guess it has to do with mushroom cloud and nuclear war. It came to be. It was realized. He opened his window, and bam, the world was gone, decimated, I should say. Burning. Um, and I'm intrigued when I saw that. Okay, I want to see where this is going. Obviously, it's also not a fresh take. I think we've come across stories like that in the past. Um, I don't know if it's Outer Limits or some other anthology where maybe it's Stephen King's creation, but where the writers, whatever he writes, actually come to be. You know, and I I'm intrigued to see where that would ensue. So hopefully, maybe in season two, they could come back to that. That'll be pretty cool. I would love to see what happens there. Um, Tonight's episode is also an homage to my favorite Twilight Zone episode of all time. Now, I've mentioned to you, um, of all the classic episodes, the black and white Twilight Zone, the original one. My favorite is actually not the William Shatner gremlin on the plane or the kid that manipulate or telepathically manipulates the whole village. No, my favorite episode is the one starring what's his name, Burgess Meredith. Um, and he's his character is this guy who loves to read, but he hates people. Um, so until one time, I guess the world got nuked, so everybody's dead, everybody's gone. The world, burning, and the world gets decimated. And he's the only survivor. And guess what? What the other thing that survives, uh, aside from him? The books. The books survive. So he's like, oh man, now I have all the time to read the books I want. I don't have people to annoy me, people to take me away from my books. Yes, Evan Vance, time enough at last. That's right. I think that's the title, the episode title. And then as he's about to read, his glasses drop, and then his glasses break. And they're like, he can't read without his glasses on. And so that footage actually shows up in tonight's episode. And I love that. It's a flashback of Sophie when she was a kid, and she saw that episode. So tonight's episode is sort of an homage to that, because there's also a scene in which Sophie finds herself in a world that's obliterated, decimated, abandoned, full of debris. So when I saw that in tonight's episode, I was like, yes, that's awesome. That is so cool. So that you can file that under the category of, okay, that's interesting. Um, so let's get to the last point. The Blurry Man. The Blurry Man turns out to be Rod Serling. So Rama, what do I think? Right? Hey Rama, what do you think of the revelation or the reveal that the Blurry Man is Rod Serling? Right? Um, I liked it. but I saw it coming. I actually had a feeling, I had an inclination that it was gonna be him. And my thought, I kid you not, I swear to you, I was like, the first couple of times that they mentioned Blurry Man and they showed Blurry Man on the footage, on TV, like, hey, I was thinking like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if that turned out to be Rod Serling? And boom. And you know what? I The only part that I was surprised about that one is I didn't I didn't know that they had permission from the Rod Serling family estate to use his image for this one and his voice, of course, or somebody uh, voicing Rod Serling, imitates his voice. I didn't know that was I guess Jordan Peele got the rights or at least the permission to for that as well. So that's cool, right? Um, that said, that digital image of Rod Serling, no bueno, no bueno, man. It looks shoddy. Ugh. You would think that what is this 2019 that they could get it right, but man, that looks so creepy. It doesn't look realistic. Um, the CG digital face of Rod Serling looks as plasticky as that Princess Leia's face. Remember that at the end of Rogue One, a Star Wars story? Princess Leia, young Princess Leia, I'm sorry, young Princess Leia steps into the scene and she says, Hope. Oh man, that face looks so. And I love Carrie Fisher. I have so much respect for the character Leia, but they butchered her, man. That was not cool. It looks so out of place because it looks so obviously computery compared to the everything's around her. That's how I felt about Rod Serling's face tonight. Um, Man, really, that see that you can file that under the category of you can do so much better than that. Come on, Jordan Peele. Come on, CBS All Access. Throw some more money into it. I mean, you got some dough. Throw money into it, man. You got the permission to use his image, and then this is what you pull off. Really? What is this? The Polar Express movie with Tom Hanks playing different characters? God. So as exciting as it was, seeing that Blurry Man was Rod Serling, uh, that face, that digital CG face, just didn't work. Just didn't work for me. All right. Um, in conclusion, again, it's a mixed bag. Tonight's episode. Parts of it I find interesting and cool. Parts of it I'm like, yeah, you could do better than that. But I gotta give credit um, for the fact that this is an episode that doesn't shove social justice warrior theme down your throat. It actually gives effort on the bizarre or the oddity part. Um, still, they haven't struck that balance quite yet. Now, if you've seen this anthology series on Netflix called Creeped Out, go check it out. It's fantastic. Creeped Out is kind of like Twilight Zone, but for young adults and junior high school. And so each episode they tackle themes themes that relate to um, high schoolers and teenagers. So, for example, one episode is about trolling. This guy trolls people online, and by the end, he ends up being a literal troll. There's one episode where this kid cheated his way out of going to school, or he he cheated his way out of like tests that he's about to take, and he would sell the tests to everybody in the class. Um, and so by the end of the episode, he got cheated out of something else, and then his sister has to pay. Now, stuff like that, creeped out, creeped out strikes that balance between the themes that they want to insert, the message that they want to convey, and wrapping it with bizarre and oddity, you know, weirdness and twists and turns. They know how to do it. And on top of that, they end it with karma or irony. Remember what I said last week? What makes part of what makes the old classic Twilight Zone episodes so appealing is that the characters would try to uh, get themselves out of their circumstance, but that effort backfires. Those are some of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes, the classic ones, when the characters try to, manipulate their situations and try to outplay their circumstance, but their effort backfires, or there's a karma. Whatever they put in is put back on them. Creeped Out does that, and that's something that this season of Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone hasn't fully locked in or figured out quite well yet, along with the whole, striking the balance between bizarre and the social justice. They're either like too much on the social justice theme, um or too much on the bizarre thing, like tonight. So um I know that Sophie at one point in one of the scenes in tonight's episode conveys to Jordan Peele. By the way, it's fantastic that Jordan Peele shows up as as a character in this episode, uh, as himself, of course. That's pretty cool. But she tells Jordan like, "Hey, this is why Rod Serling created was so beloved." Okay, that's cool. Seems like you're on the right track there, but that's Sophie's on the right track. The overall season one of this Twilight Zone is not quite on the right track. So, and I think they can get there. They just again probably have to hire better writers, man, and cut down the runtime. Again, I can't stress that enough. 1 hour or what was tonight? 40 minutes, right? It's still too long, man. It's still too long. Trim it down, condense it, make it go straight to the point, and be creative, but be profound. You can definitely hit that balance, and put in some karma, put in some irony in there. Um, uh, that said, tonight's episode, the fact that it pays homage to my favorite Twilight Zone, um, Time Enough at Last, and by the end, Sophie walks hand in hand with Rod Serling into oblivion of the Twilight Zone. Because of that, I can't hate this episode. It's like an episode of like celebrating Twilight Zone, and even though it's flawed, because of that intention, I can't hate it. So again, that's why it's a mixed bag. All right, that's my ranting, my review of tonight's final episode of this current Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone season one. If you've seen it too, do you agree or disagree with my assessment? What do you think? I want to hear your thoughts about it. Share them down below in the comment section. And again, subscribe, press that like button and ring that bell. And if you can help support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/Rama Screen. Oh, I almost forgot that part where the makeup guys were like brushing Jordan Peele's beard. Fantastic. I wish I could grow a beard where people like, or I just get a brush and just like, ooh, clean it, rub it. So it must be nice to be Jordan Peele. Of course, it's nice. He's an Oscar winner. So thanks so much for tuning in, you guys. Until next time, let's rock this.